going on, guys? And welcome back to Fasterproms YouTube channel. Today we've got a 2020 Silverado, and this thing is getting some boost. You got all your goodies laid out there, Laz.
And reading the instructions.
So guys, we got a Procharger off of for a 2020 Silverado here with a D1X Supercharger. Now that is not just your average normal, this is a really, really impressive blower. The whole X series from Procharger is a game changer. They make a lot more power. It's a stage 2 kit from Procharger, and we got a number of different options with intercooler and, just as Laz had said, the blow-off valve and the upgraded charger. Now, what's also very impressive though is the fact that the 2020 Silverado makes a bunch of power. Before we put this on though, we're going to baseline dyno it and see where we're at to begin with. That's really not very complex though. This is a really good looking truck, and the customer really wants to be able to take this thing really far.
It's a lowered four-wheel drive.
Is it really?
It's a lowered four-wheel drive.
It doesn't have a lot of wheel hang, so it looks like it would sit pretty low.
Yeah. You know, so he's upgraded the tires a little bit.
Did he?
Those aren't OE tires.
Oh yeah, he's got the Toyotas on there. All right, so for a moment there, I thought this was the 5.3. This is actually the 6.2 with the 10-speed. So this has got really an awesome combination. It's very much like the RST package, which has the 6.2 and the 10-speed.
We got us a 2020 Chevrolet 6.2 liter 10-speed. Gonna do a little baseline pull on it. Laszlo's in the captain's chair. Wheel horsepower, bone stock.
If I'm flooring it right, that's Jeremy's gig.
All right, so after dynoing this thing put down about as much power as yours put down with heads and cam.
Yeah, same as what George's put down with heads and cam.
Oh my gosh. All right, so since the tune was bone stock, we couldn't be able to dyno it in the gear that would probably show the most power. However, that's well over 400 at the motor.
Kind of look like your Duramax.
It kind of does.
Bunch of pipes everywhere.
That looks really good though.
Yeah. And our head unit's black.
Definitely gonna look a lot better.
Sinister.
All right, so Laz, we got a couple different pulleys here.
Yeah, so we're starting with a 4.25, and then if that doesn't get us enough boost, that one will.
All right, I like that option right there. So we're gonna be freeing up the exhaust a little bit, so it will probably drop a little bit of boost from stock. And we're actually using a speed engineering kit. You guys have seen us use that a whole bunch. We really like their stuff. It is excellent bang for the buck right there. I've got it on my wife's Escalade. You know, we got it on Uncle Sam right there. You got it on your truck. We run a lot of speed engineering stuff, and we know that it's going to be able to pick up some pretty solid power right there as well. To complement this, though, we're probably going to throw on a little bit of methanol injection to really stretch the fuel system.
Alky control.
Ideally, we would want to be able to run 85. However, we don't know if the tuning software is supported yet. The simple fact that we can tune a 2020 vehicle is pretty awesome, and that is a big thanks to HB Tuners. So we'll be able to dive into that a little bit later, but for right now, we're gonna start doing mechanical work on this thing. It looks pretty clean cut.
Yeah. We're gonna start stripping everything down, and we're going to just go through the book says what it wants off, get everything off. At that point, I'm gonna start stripping down all the exhaust too. That should free up a lot of space for me to work on the exhaust, get the headers put on the truck, and then we'll start bolting on the Procharger. George just finished tightening up the bracket. I got it started on there and it was kind of making me tired, so I'll let George tie it in. He came with a fresh wind. That's all tightened up. I was kind of prepping the intercooler to drop it in here. And
yeah.
It's a big intercooler to squeeze through here, but we're gonna have to try that.
Yeah, that's like a 4-inch, and it is definitely large, so we got to kind of shoehorn that in, something like that. You're saying?
Yeah. Got the idlers. We're gonna put the idlers, the tensioner back on here. Before we put the head unit on, though, we got to get this exhaust up with, because I'm gonna kill ourselves on room if we put the head unit in there.
Now, one other thing too is that on our Escalade, when we put the intercooler in there, these have these. It's like kind of a shroud. Yeah, that is.
Cold weather shutter, so that helps the truck heat up.
We don't want any of that.
He's down on getting rid of it, but the ICT billet kit that we used. I don't know how to say that. The ICT kit billet we used on the Escalade came with a little bracket to mount the motor in, so it didn't throw any codes. So literally just think that it was closing the shutters and opening them.
Gotcha, for regulation and stuff. Yeah, I got it.
So we don't have that bracket to delete these, but we could try.
In Florida, it's warm, you know, pretty much 10.5 months of the year.
Not more.
Yeah, probably. And we are now putting an obstruction in what would be, well, cooling everything else out. So realistically, we would like to have as much airflow as possible through there. It's not really going to...
The owner's already told me he wants to be able to see the intercooler too.
For sure.
And weight reduction is not a bad thing. Vertical, then turn.
Vertical, turn, man. Turn and burn.
Oh, she made it that far.
I would just take that off. You just take that
I
off.
don't want to lose adjustment.
I would just grease pin it.
Voila.
Nice. The support brackets hold it right there and there.
Is that what this guy is?
Yep. That big bolt that you took out.
Classy.
On the brackets, the crash brackets, support brackets.
You just barely see the intercooler back there. Yeah, we're gonna have to take those little shroud things out. All right, fellas, I gotta say, this thing looks awesome. I really, really like this gray on that silicone coupler that kind of matches the truck. I mean, it looks, I mean, the truck to begin with is just, they look mean, dude.
Nemesis.
That head unit is a big beefy one, so we really like the D1X. Again, I said that a little bit earlier, but I'm so pumped to see this thing. But guys, guess what? We're finally ready to fire this thing up, and we're probably what would you say, about 95% done. We don't have the exhaust totally finished, but it's the weekend. We're trying to go home. We wanted to fire it up, and this is the last thing that we're doing before we're going home.
It's gonna be pretty loud.
Yeah.
We put Laz's little resonators on the headers, so hopefully.
I'll get to hear see what my resonators sound like.
It's the best we could muster with a slip-on in no time, huh? Right.
It was zip tied on.
Perfect, yeah.
But, you know.
You guys might notice this has a factory air box. Well, the interesting thing about this whole 2020 truck is that they have a totally different style induction, and that kind of funnels in and goes down.
They have you remove the funneling in and going down because it's replaced by their pass-through tube. That's where your funnel would be. I do like the fact that we have, you know, the air coming in here and it's going in this section, and the owner actually opened up the side of the air box. Since this is the stage 2, you actually put this in, drop your filter in it, and then just have the lid on it. So you have a full open.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you don't just have a small section area. You get the whole thing as bottom.
Correct.
Nice. All right.
We might try that both ways.
Gotcha. Now the only thing, again, you guys know I'm a little bit crazy about air temperature is we want to be able to keep that air temperature darn. We want to be able to keep that air temperature Definitely want to keep that air temperature down, because if you start with cooler air, you're going to end with cooler air. Well, the fit and finish honestly looks great.
Bypass getting recirculated. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I want to hear what it sounds like.
All right, let's fire it up, dude.
Here goes nothing.
Still has the
Dude, that sounds mean, bro. Let's watch this guy. Yeah, we lost our zip tie.
Sitting on the floor.
Yeah. Oh, that thing's
Breaking in now.
dude. Woo! I like that, man. That sounds mean.
My flow is a little bit too quiet.
Yeah. Definitely a big difference between the centrifugals and the positive displacements is you're gonna hear the centrifugal a lot more. And if you're really into that, this is the one for you.
Crazy sounding.
Yeah, it is.
So, I don't know if I told you, we were kind of limited on belt size, and we just had to put the smaller pulley on.
Oh boy. All right, so guys, in order to finish up this, now we're 100% got to put that methanol on there. There's no question. I don't think we got enough fuel for that pulley alone. So we're putting on a twin methanol kit from Alky Control. You guys have seen us do it probably many times. We love that methanol, and it really does help stretch the fuel system on these direct injection engines. So this is an awesome truck, and it just got turned up a lot. Once we get the computer back from HB Tuners, we'll put the methanol on it. We're gonna get this thing on the dyno. We got to finish up the exhaust, but dude, big part checked off. Super good looking truck. So again, you guys can follow that thing at NEMSS.
NEMSS.
Yeah, but
Nemesis.
you call them addiction wrong?
Pretty clever.
There you go. Let's get him more than 15 subscribers. If the 3 people that watch this, we'll be able to increase his by 20%.
Sounds pretty good, huh?
Yeah, dude, I'm stoked with it for sure.
Surprisingly quiet.
But
gonna be really
it's not
interesting.
necessarily going to be a sleeper.
I mean, that's at idle, so imagine this thing at like 2,500 RPM and then rolling into it. It's going to be, you're going to hear that blower a couple blocks away.
Screaming.
All right, well, guys, great job. Go have a great weekend. We'll see this thing next week. She's going to be a ripper. All right, guys, we're going to talk a little nerdy to you here. We've got a 2020 GMC Denali, 6.2 liter. We're gonna run it on the dyno baseline. We just got our new ECM in from HB Tuners, so we are gonna do some tuning on that. That's kind of buried down in there, but not a single mod on this vehicle. We've tuned a ton of vehicles for this gentleman, and in fact, we're actually gonna be racing with him on Wednesday night. It's gonna be a hell of a lot of fun. But this one right here presents some different challenges because the 2020 stuff is just so heavily encrypted. So this is the first 2020 Silverado that I'm gonna do. We'll find out what it baselines at. We did do our baseline on the Nemesis truck right there, but I thought that this would be pretty nice to be able to see the second one. And this one's tuned, so we got ECM, like I said, from HB Tuners on this one, and that one's just getting shipped out right now. All right, fellas, if you have not been in a new Denali, it's nice. It's really nice. I'm gonna turn off the AC, but yet I'm gonna have my tushy all cushy with a fan blowing on it. Because I mean, it's 90 degrees, you know. you would want to have the fan blowing on it if you're 90 degrees. All right, this thing's got a lot of gears, so I'm gonna try and find out what gear it really wants to be pulled in. We got 10 speeds here, 10. So I'm gonna try maybe 4th or 5th or something like that. This still has the factory program in it, so if we go any higher, it'll run into the speed limiter, which I believe is 98 miles an hour. So got our HP tuners right here. It's pretty amazing that we can pretty much log everything that we need to do on this brand new ECM. Sometimes it would take like years to be able to get that kind of support, but they got it. Before we do anything, we're gonna have to pull a wheel speed sensor. So on some later GMs, you gotta pull, actually that's probably all the way from like 2007 or so. You gotta normally pull the fuses. We pulled a wheel speed sensor and we should be good to go. All right, so there's 4th gear. All right, so downshifted to 3rd, and then we rode out 4th right there. What are you doing? Definitely still having some problems here with my data logger. I've got some things figured out. Looks like our end of injection time is a little bit off. Our air fuel, not bad, like 12.6. And well, that O2 sensor is acting a little bit wonky. That's not exactly the case. However, I did stay 4th gear, I believe. So we're going to try and run that again. I might do a pull in 3rd gear just to verify and see how that is. Always interesting on a new setup, new platform, trying to find out exactly. We're learning as we go. All right, so here we go, 3rd gear. Actually showed better. 350 wheel, 376 pound-feet of torque. That's a pretty solid baseline, so let's start to modify it. All right, so I made some basic modifications to the general part of the tune. We're gonna see where we're at. I got a lot more spark in there, and I'm not sure if it's going to tolerate it, because I believe we had some spark knock on the 1st and 2nd pull. And of course, I just wanted to get more aggressive with it, but we've got a number of other changes that should help. Try a 3rd gear pull again, and then we'll do a 4th gear and see if it'll make more power without that speed limiter on there. All right, about the same power there, made a little bit more torque, a little less horsepower. Did not spark knock. It actually doesn't look like we had that much more timing. All right, so check this, guys. I got 17 degrees of timing right there. However, I have programmed 21 degrees of timing. So somewhere there is retarding 4 degrees of timing. We got to figure out where that is. If we get that all resolved, we should be able to make a little bit more power. I commanded a little bit higher fuel pressure. Our injection timing looks closer to where it needs to be. We should be able to make a little bit. All right, so far the 2020 is definitely got some differences than say 2019 and so on and so forth. Normally you got 2 different mass airflow tables and it favors one versus the other. This one, if you look at the data here, this is the low side of the MAF and it goes on up and it's got a very high value. So I'm gonna say that this one is erroneous and it's not looking at mass airflow table 1. Very unusual. 203 grams per second on the beginning of the pull and at the end 318. So that is our fuel map. I'm gonna go in there and we're a little rich. Injection timing. Okay, so that's end of injection timing right there. Interesting thing about injection timing is it has directly to do with how much fuel it's consuming. If the fuel pressure is altered, there's an algorithm such that on higher or lower fuel pressure, it is going to alter how the injection timing is working. And if you take away fuel, then it does the same type of thing. So it basically has to do with the demand. Diesels are set up the same way. I had this conversation with my diesel tuner, Adam Pila, and was bouncing some ideas off of him, and it is one of those things that you just kind of chase. As you're ramping up fuel, and say for example, if you have the variable of boost and you have a deadhead fuel system so that as your boost rises, the fuel pressure drops, it becomes one of those devil in the detail moments right there where it's just really tough to kind of hit that moving target. So you've gone up 2 pounds in boost, you drop 2 pounds of pressure at least. So your demand has risen up and your supply has gone down and your injection timing gets wonky. So that can be one of those things that you chase. And in my case, a lot of times it is flex fuel. So we might have a perfect tune on 93, and then we put in flex fuel on a boosted car where we're at the end of the fuel system limitations, and you're chasing that injection time. Just thought I'd nerd out there with you. Hopefully you got all that. Moving right along. Another one that's really interesting table right here. This guy right here, I've never seen this before. So this is in load right here, and then that is RPM, and then this is a spark figure. And it's taking into account engine coolant temp and air temperature. So right now, our target should have been 21 degrees right here. Now I've gone through everything else and checked the modifiers, made sure our IAT wasn't really acting up there. We're under 122 degrees intake air temp, so we should be 21 degrees still. We're not having that as our modifier. That being said, our coolant temp also still in spec. We're still under 230 degrees, so that's not being modified. Variable cam spark, that also is taken care of, nothing there. The humidity spark, nothing there. I'm looking at that table because this seems to be drawing the timing down lower as if this is a modifier here. So it says this table is used to modify spark advance based on inlet air temperature and engine coolant temperature. I've just never seen it before, so I'm going to start to mess around with it and we'll see what it does. Ton better, finally. All right, it's still a bit rich though. I'm kind of surprised. All right, so I think we must have gotten our spark curve to work correctly here. Let's see what kind of spark we have. 20 degrees. Okay, so on the previous baseline pull, I had seen a spike of 20 degrees and it was like 18 underneath the curve. Very large gain in torque on the bottom end right there. Looks like 20 pound-feet of torque at 4750 right there. And quite a bit more even down low right here. So wow, 34 pound-feet of torque, 4,000 RPM. All right, so we're moving a couple steps in the right direction, and one surprise. You guys have probably heard me say before, the more you know you don't know. Now, if I were smart, I should have checked the mass airflow sensor megahertz. Well, I just did on this pull, and guess what? They're the completely opposite of any mass airflow before. Normally the megahertz go from low to high. Well, guess what? I was wrong. That second MAF curve definitely is not used. It's the first MAF curve. Or we have our hertz right there, and it starts at 1500 and it goes down to 1100. I'm going to take out the proportionate amount of fuel right there. We're about 10% rich all the way across the board there, so hopefully there's a little bit more power to be picked up there. All right, tuning round 3. She's up to temp. Hopefully this time we got our fuel map figured out. How's my hair? Good? Makeup? Also good? Still kind of lost some power. Air fuel was closer, but might not have just might not have liked it. Air fuel isn't bad, but doesn't seem like it really cared. Should have had about another ½ degree of spark on it. Let's check that out. We lost spark. Interessante. Well, I definitely keep learning here, so we're gonna go back and I'm gonna try and find out why I lost spark even though I had added some. And I still gotta tweak on the injection timing. I'm not so convinced that changing air fuel was the reason for the loss of power because we had less spark. So, you know, like I said, the more you know you don't know. We got to find out why it's got that variance right there. Fourth iteration on the tune there, fellas. All right, coolant temperature's good. Everything seems good. Hair still good. Beard's good. All right, kind of hovering around that same area. Lost a little bit of torque, started to pull a little bit later. All right, so this is being some pretty hard-fought gains here. I'm not getting the spark advance of what I want yet. I'm still trying to find out where and why that is being modified. So I went through a number of different things and I haven't totally found it yet. Again, this is the first 2020 that we're working on, and it'll take a little while to get all the bugs worked out, but we are definitely making some pretty good strides right now. Well, unfortunately, my last pull right there where I actually got everything somewhat squared away didn't really work out on the GoPro. So I messed up, but as you can see right here, we ended up making a little bit of power. Not a lot, but for a bone stock car, and again, this is the first one. So once we start to throw some mods on it, it'll be able to pick up a bunch more power. Now getting this forced induction to work with this Procharger is definitely going to be a challenge. And methanol, we typically kind of missed the fact that normally we use our methanol trigger going upwards. So that's going to be a challenge, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Oh, I almost forgot. Got our posters in here, and we are spending a bunch of time getting all these things ready to rock. Also, we're working back on Cater Tot, so we'll see that guy back coming next episode. God bless you guys. We'll see you next episode. Oh, forgot. Wanted to recommend a song for you guys. That is Hell Yeah by Rev Theory. All right, we'll see you next time. Yeah, Jericho. We have a good play day?